Welcome to Creekside Mountain. I'm kidding. We're not going to play this music, but we are going to play this one. Alright. This started off as a simple open-top bowl terrarium, and it quickly morphed into what you saw in the beginning, a creekside mountain. And I come from a pond building background, outdoors, so I got a little carried away. It's going to be fun. First of all, what you're looking at here is the lighting. I still cannot get lighting right with glass. This one seems to be the closest, so I ran with it. First thing we got to do is build the base, because I do want plants. I want a Paladarium kind of thing, so the base is going to hold the land mass, and I had to glue all those pieces together. Next, I had to build the house for the pump, and that's just simple corrugated plastic. You can buy it anywhere. And poke the hole, put the screen on the hole. That's where the water is going to flow. And we are not done with this pump. There's going to be more of this later. A lot more. But those are the sides of the walls for the pump. Next up, I poured a little bit of gravel in and scooted it out of the way for the pump. The whole point of the pump is it's a pain in the ass to change these. It will go out eventually, but you don't want debris and stuff getting into the actual pump area. So I siliconed the bottom, and I know what you're thinking. The sides are still open, but there we go. Once the base was in, I foamed all the sides, so almost nothing is going to get through there. I'm sure some things will squeeze through eventually, but in the front, the foam is going to catch the debris in the front. The foam, the thicker foam in the back is going to prevent anything from going around the sides. So the only thing that's really going to drop in there is going to be from the plant I put, the tree in the back. Now, I wanted to build the front up because the base is ugly, and that's going to be a process that you'll see carried throughout. This is just simple geotextile you can get at Lowe's. It's for keeping weeds out of your garden. That's what I'm going to use to keep the dirt out of the water. Now, I had to find a rock system that would work, and I've had this really cool middle rock. What you want to do is you want to frame it. So you have a big rock on the sides, on each side, and then a middle rock that's the framing rock. I cut a hole to match the hole that's in the rock, so the water can flow over nice and smooth. It runs through the pump, up the hose, into the reservoir, and then out through my lip. Once I was happy, I put the pump back in. I had marked where the reservoir should be, so it's exactly where I need it to be. I found my little hole, the notch in that rock. As you can see there, I should have gotten a close-up on it, but you'll see later. And that's going to match the notch that I made in my reservoir. Once I was happy, I super glued it all in. And once that side was done, that was really the hardest part, because now I can just fill in the gaps with foam. And what the foam does up here is it makes the water flow where I want it. So the foam underneath doesn't really matter. That's just to keep dirt out. The foam up top, I push down, so as the foam dries, before it hardens, you can push it down, and it'll just flatten out, which is what I'm doing here. So I don't want any of the water to escape through. I want it to flow over top of the rock. And then it was time to put my other framing rock in. And as you can see, it actually fits perfect right there. It's rare something fits right snug like that, so I was pretty happy about it. And then I foamed the bottom, because again, I don't want water to escape. It has to flow where I want it to. So that foam is just going to keep the water flowing forward. And you'll see how I hide that in a little bit. But this is exactly how I would build a pond out in someone's yard. Then the foam goes underneath again, because we don't want dirt to escape into our bay, our pump bay. And now's the fun part. So now I'm going to take what I've built up top, and I'm just going to extend it down. I want this to look like I'm walking in the woods, and I come up onto a rock face, and I see just a little stream trickling down the rock. I didn't want it to be crashing, because the evaporation would be too much. So just a little stream trickling down, and on that note, I haven't had to refill it in a week now. So this took me a week. I let it sit for a week. It's thriving, and I haven't had to refill it, which is what I wanted. This is more silicone, so now the rest of the stream, again, I don't want it to just seep through the geotextile, so I just coated it with a thick layer of silicone. If the entire bottom wasn't water, like if it wasn't in a bowl where the whole base was water, I would have to do something else, because water is going to escape. But because it's just going right back down into the reservoir, it doesn't really matter. But the silicone, it will make it flow for what I need it to do. Now, if you pause here, if you look, I'm hiding this stream with a mixture of dirt and little pieces of that rock that I smashed up with a hammer. And that's just going to make it look natural. Once the moss is in and my little details are in, you're really not going to be able to tell that there's silicone or foam there. That back piece was the biggest pain in the butt throughout the whole thing. I wanted a tree to go back there. I foamed out like a little pot for it, but getting the dirt in there was almost impossible. So it took me a while to figure that out. The rest of the areas I just created with hardscape. So I created this little planting section with a rock in the front, foam next to the waterfall, and I just put dirt in there. And it created a nice little scape that I can put a couple plants in. There's my tree. The tree went in fairly easy, but like I said, I had to put more dirt on top of this once the tree was in, and that was even harder. I did spill some into the pump bay, which was not ideal. But these little grasses I got at Petco. I don't like supporting Petco. Every time I do, I feel like I'm a traitor to the trade, but they have been having some good plants, so I had to get them. But anyway, so I planted like the Mondo looking grass, and I really like them. They're thriving. They're easy, which is what I love. Easy is the way to go. Listen, there's fancy plants you can get. There's people that do them and they do them well. I am not a herbologist. I don't know plants that well, so I want easy plants. I like to just build things. I'm a creator, not a maintainer. And I think a lot of people are like me. So if you like to build but don't like to maintain, you want easy maintenance, these are the builds for you. So as you can see, after I put my details in, I turned the water on, the water shot out, doesn't look natural. So you can turn the pump down. This pump has levels. I could turn it on low, but I wanted the water to flow out a little hard. So I just put a little bit of rock up there to keep it and turn it where I wanted. Water is going to find the easiest way out, right? So you don't need to change it much. You just put a piece of rock there and the water is going to flow against that rock and out where I want it, which is great. I like the viney look. So I put a few sticks in there to make it look like there's vines. I built the base up again. And I put some cocoa fiber in here. And what that's going to do is get really soaked, and I'm hoping the moss clings to it and just spreads all throughout that front area. I want it to be a moss wall there. So I got it started, but I want it to be thick eventually, and I think it will be. This is just a little bit of floating plants that I took out of my beta tank. I'll link to that build actually, if you haven't seen it yet. It's a great build. And they're going to survive in there. Those are easy plants too. Those floating plants, they're going to be there for a long time. And even if they die, they reproduce like crazy, so I can just grab some more out of the tank. So I put a second tree in, but it was way too big for a round bowl, so I had to trim it down. So this build is not easy to do, but it is easy to maintain. And it's just time consuming. It's not complicated. So I hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you next time.